I'm sure everyone has a gaming white whale. Some game that you've always wanted to play but could never find or got the chance to buy. Lots of GameCube games fall into this category for me. Games like Rayman 3, the Sonic Adventure ports, and Paper Mario were games that I would constantly see on store shelves as a kid but never took a chance on. Another game that just slipped past my grasp was the Scott Pilgrim game, made to accompany the movie adaptation. I had just gotten into the books in middle school and I was stoked to find out that a tie-in game existed. The game only released digitally, and at the time I had never purchased a digital game before. I spent an embarrassingly long amount of time figuring out the logistics of how I would attempt to buy the game. By the time I had conceived my master plan, the game was delisted from all digital storefronts. Miraculously, on the dawn of its 10th anniversary, the game was re-released on all modern digital stores. Now I finally had a chance to experience my dream game based off of my favorite comic series. Would it hold up to my wildest expectations, or was I bound for disappointment? Let's find out. A large appeal of these tie-in games is being able to capture the fantasy of exploring established worlds and stepping into the shoes of beloved characters. Not only does this game succeed in that endeavor, it also acts as a fun mashup of the best elements from the books and the movie. Some scenarios will play out almost identically to the books, while other events might include additions from the movie or something completely brand new. One of my favorite examples involves the Roxy Richter boss fight, where she fights using her sword from the comics alongside her chain whip from the movies. She's also the one who slices the train in half rather than Knives' dad in that level. Another fun expansion shows up when you chase the twins to their secret lair towards the end of level 5. It's a spooky temple filled to the brims with death traps and Yakuza goons. I wonder if the game is implying that the twins are involved in organized crime. Maybe that's how they're able to fund all of their inventions. Another fun highlight are the locations where the levels take place. Scott Pilgrim's most exciting moments come from the intersection between the mundane and the fantastical. There are urban beat-em-up mainstays like bustling city streets and packed trains. The level roster gets spiced up with exciting set pieces such as a Halloween costume party, a movie set, and even an underground laboratory. Anamanaguchi's soundtrack provides an energetic yet sincere sound to the game. When I first read the comics, I didn't have a clear idea of what sounds would punctuate each scene. After playing the game, I really can't imagine Scott's world without Anamanaguchi's score. Some of my personal favorites include themes for the Halloween party, the movie set, and Gideon's first phase of his boss fight. During the playthrough for this video, I also found a new appreciation for the main theme of the game. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the game is a retro-inspired beat-em-up with light RPG elements. The goal is to defeat all 7 of Ramona Flower's evil exes. You can choose between 6 characters with their own light and heavy attacks to defeat enemies. You also have access to helpful Knives assists and a crowd control special move that uses guts points. These points can also revive you when you get knocked down and lack health. As you progress, you gain experience, which unlocks more moves for each level. There's a real sense of progress made with each new move being added to your toolbox. Some of my favorite tools include the Heavy Stomp that lets you bounce off of the heads of your enemies, and the Sonic-like double jump attack for dispatching the rare airborne foe. The core appeal of these moves comes from the responsive controls. It really feels like this is a combat system that's begging to be mastered. While there's a lot to appreciate about Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the game, much of its strengths are undercut by the RPG facet of this beat-em-up RPG mashup. While you gain experience through combat, those levels increases only unlock new moves. In order to increase your health, strength, defense, and willpower, you'll have to make purchases at shops with the money earned from defeating enemies. Each consumable adds points to these 4 categories, making you stronger. The shopping system is key to progression in this game, and it's also the source of unneeded exhaustion. There are a few distinct reasons for this exhaustion. First, the game isn't large enough to facilitate an RPG leveling system. The game only has 7 levels. While all of those levels are fun on a couple of playthroughs, the need to increase your wallet will lead you to make many return trips to these locales. I feel like most RPGs are able to reduce the frustration of grinding with a breadth of variety in its enemy encounters and areas. While each level has its own configuration of engaging enemies and hazards, their novelty is undercut through the need for repetitive grinding. Second, there isn't much actual role-playing in this light RPG. When you progress in this game, you grow linearly rather than compounding on or constructing around innate qualities. While all characters have differences in the disjointedness of certain moves or in their special tech attacks, stat-wise they are all the same. It's not like Scott or Stefan have more strength or Kim and Ramona have more speed. Every character will start with 0 points in each category and can eventually level up to 100 points. There isn't any benefit in neglecting one stat type over another. If you're not keeping tabs on all of your stats, you're not going to keep up with the game's escalating difficulty. A majority of the fun I've had from the RPGs I've played came from trying to strategize with how I level up and customize my party. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World lacks this persistent dynamism and player expression in its progression, which often leads to feelings of stagnation. Just as there is a lack of player choice in how you level up your character, there's also a lack of meaningful choices in what to purchase. For instance, most levels only have up to 1 or 2 shops, while most of the game shops are located primarily in the first level. Most shops offer food and equipment that level up a small portion of your stats. If you want to get strong fast, you'll need large and reliable sources of XP. The best spots come in the form of the video rental store and Wallace's secret shop in the first level. The video store has a huge late fee that has to be paid in order to access the rest of its items. While some of the items for sale provide decent XP, the main benefit of the unlocked shop list is easier access to extra lives, which help you stay in levels longer. Wallace's secret shop has easier access to strong items but has the drawback of being fairly pricey. The late fee from the video store was too large for me to meaningfully tackle during my first playthrough, and I was fully aware of the difficulty spikes in later levels. My strategy to level up revolved around grinding enough for the items in Wallace's shop and making repeated visits. If you want to grow efficiently, you might end up adopting some variation of this strategy, which gets pretty boring pretty quickly. Lastly, and most damning, this system obfuscates the difficulty and potential feelings of accomplishment that comes from overcoming it. This game is hard. I don't think that's a flaw. It would be reasonable to assume that a retro throwback would try and capture the distinct grit and tension found in its seminal arcade classics. The issue comes when incorporating RPG progression. For me, my major choke point came in level 3, a massive enemy gauntlet followed by 2 back-to-back boss fights. When I ended up failing, I had to question whether or not it was my lack of strength or understanding of the game that led to my downfall. The easier thing to do would be to grind so much that any boss would barely be an issue for me. Like I mentioned in the previous point, my journey through this game revolved around continuously playing older levels and returning to Wallace's shop for his items. I did this until I maxed out all of my stats. This led to a slightly underwhelming finale, where I was barely matched with the last level's difficulty. Maybe just a bit stronger than it. I was strong enough that considering and learning the patterns of each boss felt inconsequential. My victory against Gideon and the other X's felt hollow. While I'm willing to admit that the conflicts that occurred from my strategy are partly my own fault, I'm more concerned with what conditioned me to come up with that strategy. It might be a bit hyperbolic to state, but I feel like the progression of this game does a lot more harm than good. I might have had a harder time beating the game, but I feel like I would have a much more rewarding experience if I didn't have to manage all of my stats. Our discussion leaves us with a simple conclusion that the game is mechanically great, but the underlying systems supporting the campaign prevent it from reaching its greatest heights. However, something doesn't feel right about that conclusion. To get to the bottom of this issue, let's conduct a simple thought experiment. Imagine that the 2 current Scott Pilgrim games don't exist. Going off of just the books, movie, and animations, what kind of game do you think Scott Pilgrim would be? The natural answer would be something in the character action genre. However, one important element to the franchise is the theme of growth. Throughout all iterations of the story, characters are in a perpetual state of change and self-evaluation. If you wanted to get to the core of the story, extract it, and resynthesize it into a playable experience, then having some opportunity to grow is crucial. A version of the Scott Pilgrim universe where everyone and everything is stagnant wouldn't feel authentic. It's with this understanding that I can't, with any good faith, say that the RPG progression is a pointless inclusion. Its inclusion makes it congruent with the rest of the franchise thematically. It's been a while since I've read up on the game's development, but I do remember that the game's scope was being envisioned as something much larger than the final release. The need to synergize with the movie's release probably made that original scope much harder. There is a world where the game's progression had the space to truly shine, yet it would be disingenuous to disregard my experiences based on what the game could have been rather than what it actually is. There's an unappreciated magic to licensed games like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. It allows you to become invested in beloved worlds and characters in a way unique to the medium of video games. The moment-to-moment action is a thrill to experience. I genuinely love piloting these characters, where every move feels like a tool brimming with potential. From the visual style to the iconic soundtrack, the game is a loving artistic tribute to the comics and movie that came before it. There's almost too much to love about this game, which makes it all the more disappointing that it's also an experience that exhausts me. The need to maintain constant growth through its progression makes what should be a thrilling romp through Scott's world into a chore. I hoped to try and level up each character to attempt to unlock the secret addition to the roster, but looking up the requirements drained me. Maybe I'll come back, truly master the game, and gain a greater appreciation for its systems. For now, I'm just happy it exists.